Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. And as we always do, we're gonna just jump straight in. Maybe we'll add a little bit of talking at some point, but for now, let's just move. Let's keep the day going. So the morning after with TikTok, what happened with Congress and TikTok? And man, does our Congress ever look stupid when it comes to this stuff? Fantastic. But with that said, TikTok CEO Chu faced a 5-hour showdown with lawmakers who found suspicion of TikTok, as one would expect them to do, because that's basically why they were there. And it's a rare time where we have bipartisan agreement that TikTok is a problem, which is it's weird that this is the one app they go after when there's tons of Chinese apps that are problems. I don't know why TikTok is the one that we focus on. Maybe because the most people use it. Who really knows? This is what they've picked, and they're just set on that, and they're going for it. But they told them that if they don't separate from ByteDance, the Chinese subsidiary that owns it, then they can just expect to be banned here in the US. Questions arise with that, though, because a lot of people have it downloaded already. And as we've seen in the past, when things get banned, if people already have them, it doesn't really disappear. So even if they do ban it, is it possible for TikTok to keep working? They just won't be able to have servers in the US. But if you already have it downloaded, are you fine? Like, there's so many questions about this because you can't force people to go in and remove things from people's phones. That's going to cause a bigger problem than just banning it in the first place. But at one point, Representative Tony Cardenas, I think, asked Chu whether ByteDance was a Chinese company. And he would only admit it is a global firm with a Chinese founder. It's pretty straightforward. It's a Chinese company. I don't know why we had... Some of these questions don't seem like we need to ask them. It just seems like the government doesn't know what to do, so they're asking them. And to make that even more apparent, Representative Richard Hudson demanded to know if TikTok can access the home Wi-Fi network. The exact thing you would connect it to access TikTok. So, if you watch these hearings with Congress ever, or these, whatever you want to call this, anytime it's around tech, I mean, even with Facebook, so many of the questions just are irrelevant, or it's an obvious answer, and their questions are so broad, or their lack of knowledge is so apparent. And it's like they don't do any research for it, or they just never fully understand it. All they know is TikTok bad, and that's about as far as their, not to be that guy, but monkey brains go. And it's wild to watch these. I mean, at some point, we have to have somebody who understands this deal with it. Or if they really want to get rid of TikTok, then we need to figure out a way to do it reasonably. Like, why can't we encourage better competition? Why do we have to ban it? I mean, I understand the premise of bad Chinese government getting information, but you already banned it on government devices, and there's no direct harm to the American public. The public's choosing to use this. That's on them. And just because your public likes to watch junk doesn't mean you should get rid of it to help them. That's not the point of the US. But we'll see. TikTok's future is uncertain. Chinese officials basically said they oppose the sale of the social network. So, they don't want to do anything. Lawmakers don't know what they're trying to do. And it's just we're back on the Facebook thing of what are they going to do because they don't know what to do. Even if they find TikTok, even if they try to separate it, which I kind of thought they had already when Trump was in office, but I don't know. Some of these stories like this will pop up. They'll have a hearing. Memes and some articles will be written, and then it just kind of disappears. But we'll just have to wait and see again. Maybe this one won't. It seems it's gone through 2 administrations now, so somebody cares. But it's amazing how little our Congress knows. I'm not saying there should be an age cap, but there's a minimum. What should the cap be? Because it's frankly pretty embarrassing to watch our government attempt this. Next up, we have something that kind of relates close to home for me. Texas residents in Bastrop are actually pretty upset with Elon Musk, who wants to use the Colorado River to dump wastewater from the boring company. And that would be about 140,000 gallons a day of what would be treated wastewater into the Colorado River. Now, as we've seen with the recent Minnesota issue of, it turns out they were dumping nuclear waste into the water. Supposedly small amounts that weren't that bad, but it was a lot nonetheless. People are hesitant to this stuff, and rightfully. I understand wanting to dump it in there. Let's dig a hole and make a lake instead. I think at least then it can filter through the ground. Maybe, I don't know. People aren't going to want to let this happen. And the Bastrop County residents made that clear because a ton of them showed up and basically went there to the hearing and were upset. Like, what if something goes wrong? What if something affects their health? What if they ruin the river? What if it doesn't get treated completely right? I mean, there's a lot of big companies and lots of people will make mistakes at some point. Little mistakes get amplified. And I mean, even if a mistake happens for one day, that's 140,000 gallons. That's a lot of water to cause issues. This is the same area where the boring company is reportedly going to be building their own city, technically, and where employees supposedly will be able to rent homes for around $800 a month, which is quite a bit lower than the average rent around here. And residents and officials can, you know, keep voicing their concerns on this. I can see the concerns. The river here is a source of drinking water for a lot of people. It's a source for just running water in general. Up north of the river a little more, there's a reservoir which pretty much waters most of Austin and surrounding. So to see some of the river get ruined, even though it'll be south of that area, clean water like that, ruining fishing, ruining just places you can go kayak, swim, dogs can't drink water, even if it is treated properly, inevitably something might go wrong. So if they can get this through, it'd be great to see them do more than just treat the water. Like maybe it's got to get treated a few times. Maybe there's a few different steps before it gets to the river. Maybe they don't use the river at all, but we'll have to wait and see on this as well. I mean, I'm not for dumping even treated water in the river because there's still chemicals in that water, whether they're technically good, technically bad, it's chemicals nonetheless, and they weren't meant to be there. So I would like to see some other way of filtering the water or multiple steps or for sure contingencies where even if somebody makes a mistake and turns off something, it'll stop immediately. It'll send it through a different process. Like there's got to be something. It can't be a one step. It can't be a power outage problem. It can't be, even if there's a leak, there's got to be something else burying that water from just being dumped directly in there because that's a major resource to lose if something does go wrong. Just like Relativity Space lost something the other day. They are a company that is 3D printing rocket parts and had its first launch on Wednesday. And that's about all it did. After about 3 minutes, the second stage engine failed and boom, goodbye rocket. And they're declaring it a partial success. As we can remember, SpaceX, I think, was it 3 tries for a successful one, but they've had many things blow up or crash or break or fall. And this one's fully 3D printed, so I would expect no less than that. And the Terrain 1 first stage is powered by nine 3D printed engines, and then is about 85% 3D printed by mass and powered by liquid methane oxygen propellant known as Methalox. Now, the bright blue plume was a fascinating and rare sight due to the novel, rocket fuel combined with nighttime launch. Really pretty rocket launch, really pretty fall out of the sky. Now, what are the potential benefits and drawbacks of using this 3D technology to manufacture these rockets? I think it's pretty easy to say that. 3D printing is probably where a lot of things are going. There's a little bug flying around in here. And with that, it's much easier to 3D print things for parts. Those parts, though, however, maybe this is a sign that those parts just aren't as strong, can't handle the stress as well. Also, maybe they break way easier. Another thing that we'll know when they get to go through and figure out what the heck happened here. And it's cool. There's more companies starting up building these rockets. It's cool seeing one that wants to do it mostly 3D printed. And I'm excited to see what they're able to do in the future. I'd love to see more SpaceX type companies. And with that said, it'd be nice to see more CEOs that like Elon, are more out there talking vocal, take community input, and are interactive, I guess, is what I'm looking for. I mean, most CEOs aren't. Apple CEO, well, Tim Cook, Sanjay, whoa, Google CEO, I can't remember his name. And then, yeah, I mean, there's just, you can't name very many CEOs that are even that vocal publicly. And when I say that, not just about other things, about their business and input for their business. So it'd be cool to see more of that. If Relatively wants to do that, that'd be great. They already are streaming these flights, or they streamed the first one at least. So it'd be cool just to see that continue and see more communication with the community. Ford is also losing things. They are expecting to lose $3 billion this year on their Model E unit, which is their electric vehicle unit, builds all their electric vehicles, and it turns out that it is a lot harder to do that at profit than they anticipated. Despite this loss, they say they remain on track to achieve a pre-tax margin of 8% by 2026. So 3 more years of losing billions until we're there. But they're working on it, which is, I guess, something you can give them credit for. The projected loss was revealed at a briefing for investors and analysts on Thursday to discuss the details of the automaker's new financial reporting format. And with that said, the CEO also said that, maybe we should have viewed this more as a startup company and not like we can do this now and it'll be easy, which is what they did and what they're regretting. Starting with first quarter results, which will be announced on May 2nd, Ford will begin reporting by business unit for Model E for electric vehicles. So Blue combustion vehicles and Pro, which will be commercial vehicles and services. Ford also projects that the cumulative 3-year loss from 2021 to 2023 was at $6 billion, including its Pro vehicles, which lost last year about 2.1, which is so much money. I mean, it's wild to think about how much money they're spending to do this and how much they're losing on top of that. At least they have projected time when they'll be making profit. Hopefully that be great to see that come sooner if they can do that sooner. And I mean, until it happens, we'll not know if it's really possible because, I mean, clearly it's possible. Other companies are doing it, but if Ford can achieve that, I'm guessing most of it is they want to keep prices where they're at. And the big thing for that with electric vehicles is battery. So I think what's going to have to happen here is battery chemistry is going to have to get super good so you don't need the rare earth materials anymore or the rare earth elements and can get that cost down by not needing to rely on that as much, which is what most companies are working on. Tesla probably leading that charge, but Ford's trying their best here. Hopefully with a company like Rivian that they're backing can help them out to figure out, navigate that to better, more sustainable batteries. Now, if you're a kid in Utah, you are about to start hating your life. And I say that because there are these new social media laws that are being passed there. Starting in March of 2024, platforms must give parents in Utah control over their kids' social media accounts. Now, they will require parental consent for minors to use social media. And this is from Spencer Cox, who is the governor of Utah, signed this into law. And it's 2 different pieces of legislation that force social media networks to verify the age of Utah residents who create a profile and obtain parental consent for anyone under the age of 18. Now, services with over 10 million users must follow a new slew of rules, including granting guardians permission to view all posts and messages on their kids' accounts and creating a default digital curfew between 10:30 p.m. and 6:30 a.m. And that's local time, and parents will be able to turn that off as well. Now, these laws, HB 311 and SB 152, also ban direct messaging of certain accounts surfacing minors' profiles and search results. displaying advertising, collecting, or using personal information, and targeting or suggesting ads or content. When the laws kick into effect next year, folks will be able to start suing social media companies over damages incurred by Utah's new laws for anything along the lines of addiction, financial, physical, or emotional harm suffered as a consequence of using the platform, which is a lot. Now, there's a lot happening here for under 18 when, depending on how your parents want to handle this, and up to the parents here at least, that's a lot of privacy that your kid has to give up to use these platforms. And if they're not using these platforms, that could be a big deal in terms of just relationships, friends, and how their kid interacts with other kids. And as technology is growing, kids younger and younger are getting it and using it more and more. And so if you start getting rid of it for those kids, that's going to be a big deal. Also, another question to ask here is just is if we continue to ban this for minors, is that going to hinder how fast technology evolves or how quickly things are able to take off, like how quickly they can learn technology? Because if they're not able to use it when it's restricted like this, I mean, again, if your parents decide, that could be a big hindrance to them learning and understanding how to handle these platforms correctly. On the other hand, I do think that some of these probably should have been applied just broadly. Uh, Being able to sue, or not be able to sue, but if they could make it so that they just limited, how do they display advertising, collecting, and using personal information just for everybody, that would have been great. And I think they could have skipped the rest of these laws probably. And I think while this might protect some things, I think overall, socially for these kids, if you are the parent that doesn't give them access and other parents do, I think that's going to hurt the kid more than if you just gave them access because they're going to be the ones left out. They're going to be the ones without it. I think that'll be a bigger differential than not letting them use it. So we'll have to wait and see. Again, another one we have to wait and see because everything is happening so fast with no foreseen consequences until it happens. But it's here and it's going to happen soon. So with that said, thanks for watching today's episode, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. See ya.